let's go into what I call the brain science of resilience and thriving. We talked about a little bit about this, but here's three ways your brain sabotages your mental health and well-being. The first is change and uncertainty. Well, you think about in the context again of evolution, your brain actually evolved for seeking safety, security, and stability. And in the disruption of safety, security, and stability, our brains can go into states of anxiety. We abhor change and uncertainty. This is something that our brains despise, but this is something we have to get used to right now. And so there are tools which we'll talk about that can help us overcome the first bias, change uncertainty. The second, your brain's negativity bias. I talked about it just earlier, but briefly to recap, our brains are actually are wired more strongly, if you will, for negative experiences than positive ones. The third one, social isolation. This is something I'm going to talk about in more detail, but we're recognizing something about the human brain, which has just been discovered in the past 20, 30 years. And that is your brain is fundamentally a social organ. And in the absence of strong social connections, your brain recognizes and feels pain in the same overlapping regions of your brain that process physical pain, which I'll talk about in just a bit. So let's talk about some of the strategies we can begin to use. The first strategy we can use to create the science of a happy brain is learn to be adaptive, not reactive. How do we train your brain from surviving to thriving? Well, that surviving brain, that primal brain, which is geared towards stress, mistrust, boredom, scarcity, failure, uncertainty, these are the things that can sabotage our happiness and our well-being, our productivity, our sense of joy, inspiration, and hope. We need to learn the tools to begin to go into a thriving brain: motivation, inspiration, cooperation, creativity, passion, confidence, and success. These are all possible. So the one thing I want to share with you is the next strategy is practice mental hygiene. Happiness is not a promise. Happiness is a practice. We have to practice the tools for a happy brain. It doesn't come naturally to us. Well, you think about this. Did it come to you naturally to learn how to ride a bicycle or drive a car or do surgery or practice engineering or write? It took time. So the same thing is true for any behavioral practice. And this is the key point about this series, behavioral health. Many of the issues that we're talking about here are behavioral health, are really around behavioral medicine, behavioral health. We can, by modifying our behaviors, we can begin to promote better health. So one of the things we can do, as I say, is by practicing some mental hygiene. We all know about the benefits of practicing proper physical hygiene, but practicing proper mental hygiene is also very important. So what might that look like? Well, the first thing I say is when your outside world feels out of control, learn to control your inside world. This is where meditation or mindfulness practices or uh, practices that bring to the present moment. So what are the things we can't control? Well, we can't control the weather. We can't control if my technology just kind of acted up on me. I can't maybe do the slideshow that I wanted to do. We sometimes can't control other people's thoughts or behaviors. We can't control other people's actions. We can't control the future. When am I going to get my COVID vaccination? I want to get one, but I don't know when that's going to be. So what we have to do to navigate through these times of uncertainty and adversity is learn to practice how to control our inner world, our thoughts, our reactions. What can we control? We control our behaviors, our responses to situations. Rather than being reactive, how do we be adaptive and responsive? Gopi can talk more about this. I'm sure maybe the Q&A being from Google. But one thing we're finding in the research, especially as a university educator and administrator, is the challenges that social media or digital technology poses. I like to say we are disconnected in an overconnected world. Well, as you might see, technology is a good thing right now when we're physical distancing, but we need to maybe learn how to unplug wisely. I'll share with you a strategy that I do. Um, I try to one day every month to take actually one day every week on a Saturday to do a full, today being exception, to do a full technology fast, where I'm off social media. I turn my notifications off. I try to minimize even speaking. I try to really cleanse my mind, do some what I call some digital mindfulness. So learning even to maybe modify your social digital lifestyle to unplug wisely. Another strategy I really share with my students, which I think is really beneficial for us. Learn to focus on progress, not perfection. Now you're talking to someone who is a type A personality, who is really, really like just driven, to focus on perfection. But I have to catch myself sometimes. We need to really focus on what we call the not so much the destination, but the direction. So in some ways, you can say happiness isn't a destination, it's a direction. Focus on your progress. Maybe do one thing a day that maybe gets you to your goals, whether it's your health, maybe you're trying to diet, exercise. There are many things, even change your thoughts, your actions, behaviors, maybe meditation. These are all things that happen progressively, but over time, they begin to actually have and make a difference. Now, I know Gopi said medals, so I'm going off the meds. This is actually from Gopi. Self-care. I think self-care, we have to realize self-care isn't selfish. Self-care is essential. Take your meds, which comes from Gopi, his first book, Meds, Mindful Breathing, Exercise, Diet, and Sleep. If you can't do all of these, maybe try one of these. Maybe do one of these starting today. What's one of these you can start doing to really focus on in your life by taking your meds? The third strategy, get your daily dose of vitamin S, vitamin social. Vitamin social is vitamin S. Vitamin social nourishes your social brain. One thing that I'm finding that the COVID crisis has revealed is that in times of crisis, it reminds us of how truly interconnected and interdependent we are on each other. We need to learn to invest in social capital, whether that's in the corporate world, the corporate boardroom, the living room, the classroom, uh, or any place in your life. Investing in social capital is the key. Coping with stress together makes you, the people you care about, and your community happier and stronger. Connection is really key. No, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay that you need to turn to others if you're struggling. Don't hide it yourself in. I think there's a really negative, I think, cultural mind frame we have, at least in the Western society here, and probably other cultures as well, where we have to bottle things up. There's a shame around maybe talking about our mental struggles or psychological challenges. So open up and talk about them. Know that physical distancing isn't social distancing. We can still be there with each other, even virtually. And remember, you're not alone ever. You're always surrounded by care and support.